And we are
We're live.
welcome back to Honestea Talks. I'm Ranjita, aka Dr. Ronnie.
And I am Ashley, aka Peña Pequeña, on all of my platforms.
Yes, and we were just talking about how we always start our episodes with laughter. And even though we're what, 3,000 miles apart, is that how long it is?
It is. It's I think 3,000 something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we still start every episode with laughter.
Laughter. And unplanned. It's not like we're like, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
We're really laughing at our funny moments.
Okay, so today's topic, which we've talked about, is cancel culture. And I'm going to start off, let me put my tea down. I'm going to start off by reading the Urban Dictionary definition. So Urban Dictionary defines canceling as, quote unquote, to dismiss something or somebody, and to, quote unquote, to reject an individual or idea. And when people use the term unironically, it reveals a big problem with our culture. Cancel culture, as it currently exists, doesn't give people a chance to learn from or apologize for their wrongdoing.
I love that. I love that definition.
Yeah, that was a good definition.
Yeah. And I think it's good that they mentioned that, right? And how already in the definition they mentioned how it could be harmful and how it doesn't really allow room for growth. And I think personally the whole idea of cancel culture is great, like where it stems from. I think is important because it does stem from like getting annoyed with people's behaviors and saying enough is enough, right? Like I don't resonate with what you're saying, or what you're saying is harmful, right? Because I think that from what I've seen, the reason why people are canceling certain people is valid, meaning like what these celebrities or artists or companies are doing are harmful, right? For the most part, people expect more, right? So they're like, hello.
Especially when you're like a certain level of in the public eye.
Exactly. That's really because like people can get annoyed with what I say or what you say, but I'm not like freaking Lady Gaga, for example, or Oprah, right?
Yeah.
So like I'm not going to be canceled like they are in that way, or even companies like the companies that I've worked with that I'm like, what the heck are you doing? I'm not working with you anymore, right? Like the reasoning behind getting annoyed with these companies is because they're doing harmful things, or they're doing things that are obviously not beneficial to our culture, right? And to the well-being of humanity. So people they're over it. But I think that the reactiveness of it and this like attacking, because that's really what I've seen it be. I haven't seen many people, I've seen some, but I haven't seen many people say, look, can we have a conversation about why this is harmful, or like this is really harmful, just explaining instead of being like, you should die, or like, commit suicide. Like I see really, really nasty, really harmful, disgusting things, and I feel like two wrongs like that don't really it don't do anything.
No. In fact, I think more than anything, it adds fuel to the fire, which then ends up becoming literally like a forest fire. But
absolutely,
I also think that, and again, this is just opinion for me at this point, but I also think we're not shown more of the conversations that are happening. So like, I remember when the Black Lives Matter, when George Floyd passed away in the summertime, there was, I want to say, a former football player that started a live called
I saw it
with a Black man.
Yes.
And so like in that way, you're bringing in the conversation, you're bringing in the side, and you're having a moment of education, you're having a moment of growth and empathy and compassion. But I don't think those things that are happening are being brought up to the surface to be shown more.
Exactly.
It's more like continue to create the divide, continue to show anger and reaction, and the extremes of either side. And that's a thing.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that the main issue with cancel culture is that we're fueled by our emotions, right? Which can be great to grow and have conversations. But if we're not like, okay, because I've been there. Like I've seen when people were protesting and everything was happening and people were sharing, I had friends that were sharing things that were like, what are you doing? Like, this is like the least compassionate thing you should share. This
Yeah.
is not what people need to see. This, why are you sharing this? And initially, I'm seeing it with anger. I'm not seeing it with
Yeah.
compassion, right? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
How could you? I thought you were different. But then I was like, okay, like, I know this is not going to help them understand why this is not helpful and why this is harmful and why this is really not what we need, right? So
No.
I was, thankfully I was able to have those conversations. And it's important to know when it's worth having a conversation and not, right? Like, it's not like you're going to sit and have a conversation with Oprah about it, right? But there, I think there's a lot of power in also just not investing in it anymore. Then don't invest your energy if there's something that doesn't align with you. If there's a writer or an artist or a celebrity in general, an actor, whoever, right, that just does not align with what you believe in, then you can try, if they're close to you like a friend, right, then absolutely have a conversation with them. But if they're like celebrities and they're not going to talk to you,
Yeah.
unsubscribe. Like
Yes.
really, really, like, stop following them. And you
Not,
can let
not
them know.
just celebrities. Like, even if it's someone you constantly
Exactly.
follow on like social media, that's because I look at it as I stopped, like you, I stopped following celebrities and things because I'm like not adding anything to my life. Like,
Yeah,
if
no,
I want to look them up, I can go search them and find them.
exactly.
But a lot of the like spiritual community things, more of what I see are like the conspiracy theory type. Like, if
Yeah,
I read a post and I'm like, oh, this doesn't sit right with like my internal value, like unfollow, like you said. Like,
exactly.
it's whoever you kind of put on a pedestal. Like, if at a certain point you
Yeah,
don't agree with it, like unsubscribe, like you said, unfollow.
yeah,
And even with me, I tell people that all the time on my lives. Like,
yeah,
if what I say doesn't resonate, don't take it. Like,
for sure,
it's not going to hurt my feelings
for
for
sure.
honoring what you feel within yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that, like, obviously I've had people call me out and say like, "Hey, look, this probably isn't the best thing to share, right? Because of XYZ."
Mm.
So, that's helpful to me because I'm growing too, right? Like, we all can do better. Like,
Yeah.
nobody is free of error. We all
Oh,
have
yeah.
things that we can
You're
work on.
human.
And yeah, and say like, "Oh, wow, I didn't even see it that way." Like, I
Yeah.
can totally see now how this was not the best thing to share, and I could understand why that could have impacted people in a negative way or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
I've had people call me out, and I encourage that. Call me out in a way that really holds me accountable if that's what you feel called to do, and I
Yeah.
will sit with myself and say,
Oh, no. Oh, no. Did I freeze or did you freeze? Ah, this hasn't happened. What do I do? Did I freeze or did you freeze?
"Okay, I'm
Okay.
back. Do you see
Yes.
me?"
Yes,
Oh,
I see you.
perfect.
Okay. Ah, you froze again. Is it me?
I'm not frozen on my side.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Do you see and hear
Now
me?
you're moving and talking.
Great.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know what
weird.
happened.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
technical
a hot
difficulties.
topic.
Yeah, it is. And it happens, right? Like, what
Yes.
can we do?
Yeah.
At least we're back, and at least we can even do this. This is freaking
Yeah.
awesome. But I don't know when it cut off, but basically, I was saying that I do encourage people to hold me accountable because I have to hold myself accountable. But sometimes I'm not able to do that because of where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I do need somebody to say, "Hey, look, like, just so you know, this was not true," or just so you know, this is harmful to
Yeah.
my community. I'm not always going to make the perfect
Well, it's about being
decisions.
open to perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
the whole point of having an open mind, is to be able to
Yes.
hear different perspectives. Um, because part of hearing different perspectives is honing in on what resonates with you and what doesn't.
Yeah. And also understanding, exercising empathy, right? Like,
Yeah.
maybe my perspective is harmful to somebody and I didn't mean for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if somebody is like, "Hey, look, this is why what you said was detrimental to me," right? Then I can say like, "Oh, I didn't even see that," right? Or I couldn't even I didn't know, right? Or I did
Yeah.
it ignorantly, or whatever the case may be. And then I can grow from that and maybe do the same for somebody else, you know? Like,
Exactly.
I think that that really allows for growth. But when the cancel culture and what it is not, is like the opposite of that. It's like,
Yeah.
look at what this person did, let's attack. And then everybody on the internet that
Yes.
wants to release this like anger really just goes crazy on these individuals and like says the worst things, like things that even, and like nobody deserves. Like I don't nothing can
No.
condone
And even
that.
to the point of like embarrassing that person or violence against that person. Like I
Yeah.
literally, and again, it stems from being reactive, right?
Mhm.
It, it's
Mhm.
not composing yourself until clarity comes through. And you can have a conversation. It's in that moment of, I feel this, and you react to that feeling. And
Absolutely.
that's not safe. That's
No.
not healthy in any
Mm-mm.
way. I saw a video the other day, and I don't know where this was, but this guy was, I don't know what state either, but it looked like a Costco. He was in a Costco. He
Mhm.
didn't have a mask on. He had one item. He was in
Mhm.
line, and he was on the 6 foot marker thing.
Mhm.
So like, the saying,
Yeah,
and
the
again,
distance.
on the perspective, right?
Yeah.
If 6 feet is given, there really is no need for the mask. But if
Mhm.
6 feet is not given, then you need the mask, right?
Mhm.
So he was trying to explain this, like, I'm in line, I'm just getting one thing.
Yeah.
But no one was there to listen to him. Everyone was there to shame him. Like everyone around
Yeah.
him was yelling at him, screaming at him. And he's trying to state what he wants to state, but he's not even allowed to speak.
Yeah.
And then some guy comes from behind him and dumps a bucket of ice water on him.
Oh my God.
And so in that moment is when I'm like, that's when I have like, I stop listening to what these people that are pro like masks, because then you're being you're
But the
literally
thing is,
being.
and I think that's what's important too, right? It's not like necessarily boxing, because not everybody is like that. But those
Yeah,
people that use, I feel like there's a difference between saying like, look, this is why this is important, right? And do it whether you like it or not, because it's
yes,
important to me and my community, versus saying
yes.
like being aggressive or being violent or being
Shaming them, like shaming
shaming
someone
somebody.
doesn't make them want to participate in what it is that you're trying to get them to participate in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if I'm being
Absolutely.
shamed, and I'm not going to want to or do anything to fall along or fall in line, like if I'm going to be shamed for it,
Yeah, absolutely. It's
go off at that point.
yeah. And I think that that's why it's important to really have conversations and to also be, and that's the thing too, right? I think that there's nothing wrong with when it comes to people that aren't growing, right? That aren't learning, that aren't like being open-minded, that aren't listening to other people, that aren't being empathetic. There's a certain point where you do have to say like, this person is just not deserving of my time, because
Yeah.
they're not changing, right? They're
Yeah.
not even understanding why this is harmful, or they're not even understanding why what they're doing is wrong, right?
Yeah.
If that's the point, if you get to that point, then just don't, then unsubscribe, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly.
instead of sharing hate and throwing hate towards somebody, I think it's important to just say like, okay, and I've had to do this. Like, if I'm having a conversation with a friend and they're not understanding why their actions are harmful, then I can't be their friend anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. If
Yeah.
if I'm having a conversation, multiple people are having conversations with you about how your behaviors, your actions, and your beliefs are harmful to certain communities, and you're not getting it, and you're not willing to have conversation, you're not willing to grow, then I can't be with people like that.
Yeah. And
So
you
in a
can't force it
sense,
on them either.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. But I also don't have to agree with it, right? And
Exactly.
partake in something like that. So it's like important to know when enough is enough for you to say like, okay, this company does not deserve my money.
Yes.
This person does not deserve, I don't want to be with them. I don't want to hang out with them because their beliefs are harmful to my people or to my
Yeah.
community or to a certain community, it's important to know when enough is enough, and to know when, like, no, I need to unfollow, or I need to block, or I need to not invest my money, or not listen to their music, or not watch their programs if what they're saying and what they're doing is harmful. But there's no need, like throwing hate is not, just like you said, it's not gonna have them say like, oh, you know what, yeah, let me change. Maybe
Yeah,
even love,
exactly.
though, maybe even love won't make them change, right? And that's
Yeah,
why we need to know when enough is enough. Like, okay, these people are not changing. I've
yeah,
talked to this person. Like, if someone talks to me and says this is harmful and I don't change my behavior, like, yeah, they're gonna unfollow me, because they've talked to me, they've made it very clear that what I'm doing or what I believe in is harmful to them, right? And actually is, and I don't change, like, of course they're gonna, in a sense, cancel me, because they're like, this girl doesn't even care. She's not growing. She's not listening to the people that support her, right? So it's like, I do think it's important to say, like, no, I'm not supporting this, right? Whether it's a person or a company, but throwing hate is just like, what does that do?
that
You're
doesn't
doing the
solve
same thing.
that doesn't solve anything. That was one thing that, like, because it stems from taking offense to something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where cancel culture started. Like, I'm offended by this, so I don't want to have anything to do with you, right? But when you take offense, it's that emotion of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to allow your own self to cool down, because if you want changed behavior, you have to cool yourself down so that you can be open to have the conversation with that person. But if
Absolutely.
you're coming from anger and you're yelling or saying whatever harmful things to this person, the receiver is only going to be like this, like, oh my God, they're coming from anger. I don't want to hear this. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to partake in this. But if someone approaches you with empathy and compassion because you don't know
Exactly.
the topic, then
Mm-hmm.
that allows for that open conversation. But yeah,
Absolutely.
it's weird. Like, it's weird that so many things these days just incite people so quickly.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind.
And I think that's okay, right? Like, I think it's okay to, especially if you're thinking about, for example, like, let's say you're talking about a person, let's say someone's black, right? And a company is doing things that are totally anti supporting black people, right? They're gonna get freaking livid, and
Oh, yeah,
rightfully so. I'm gonna get
yes,
livid, right?
yes,
Rightfully so. So
yes,
it's not about not letting things incite you. I think it's just about, like, okay, this is infuriating because this is harmful, just like
how
anti-trans.
how can we make it change? That's what
Exactly.
you have to come from that. Like, you can't just be like,
Exactly.
fuck you and things are gonna change. Like,
Yeah. And you can be angry. There's
yes, yes,
nothing wrong with being angry
no,
and being
yes.
like, what the like, hell
Feel
no.
the emotions, yes.
Yeah. And you can act on them in the sense that, like, let's say I'm like, well, okay, this is a freaking person that's not going to have a conversation with me because they're a celebrity. They're not going to take their time of day to talk to me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I'm blocking them. I'm unfollowing them. I'm never watching their shows. I'm never listening to their music.
yeah,
Like, that's just what I'm going to do. Oh,
yeah.
you froze.
Oh no. But you're not frozen on my end.
Hello.
I see you and hear you. Oh,
I see you again.
okay. I'm
Okay,
like,
yeah,
I
you
see
froze
and
for a
hear you
second.
through the whole thing.
Oh wow. You were frozen. I couldn't hear you. But yeah, I feel like if there's somebody you're not going to talk to, right? Like, then just fully make a decision to unfollow them and to not support them in any way, right?
Yeah,
Because maybe that will show them that they're like, oh shit, I lost all my fan base, so I have to
yeah,
change, right? Like, unfortunately, maybe that's what's going to inspire them to change. But
exactly.
like, saying I want you dead is not,
No,
right?
no.
It's not gonna make them change. And
It comes down to that Martin Luther King quote, right? Like,
yeah,
hate begets only more hate.
yeah,
It,
absolutely.
you cannot expect peace and love to come out of if both sides are spewing hate to one another. Like,
Exactly.
that doesn't solve anything. It only just increases how much hate is in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. And if even if you do have, I feel like when you are angry and when you do feel hate towards somebody because they're throwing hate at you, right? Like, I can totally understand why someone would feel that way, because they're like, what the, you don't care about my life, so why do I care about yours, right? Like,
Mhm.
because a lot of these people say things and they post things that are like that are really like totally anti your life, and they
Yeah.
don't care about you. So you're like, okay, well, I don't care about you, but that doesn't serve you, right? I think like it's important to know, not only does it not change the other person, but it also doesn't serve you to bask in that hate
Yeah.
for someone else, because if they're not changing and they have this hate for you and for people, like, they need to go, obviously,
Yeah.
right? So block
Yeah.
them and educate people on why you shouldn't support them, right? Like,
You
it,
froze this time.
oh no.
I hear you though,
Okay, that's
but
good.
you're frozen.
That's, it's weird because I'm not frozen for me this time.
Oh,
I'm so
we'll keep
excited to see
talking.
how this will turn out, like
I
how it's
know, this
gonna
is gonna
show.
be interesting.
I know. But yeah, like I feel like, if, what was I even saying? I don't remember.
Sitting in the hate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So even though I can understand why that will bring those types of emotions, right? Like, you, if someone is really spewing hate and really doing something harmful, then like, educate people on why they also shouldn't support them, right? Like, if there's an artist that I know, or celebrity that I know, or writer, whatever, that I know that's harmful towards a certain community, and someone that I know is supporting them, I'm going to educate them on why they shouldn't be supporting them. Like, hey, look, now I'm not going to go on their page and say you're such an evil. No, I'm going to say you're supporting a person that is totally anti you, right? Like, they are harmful towards this community. So why don't you support these companies instead? Or why don't you support
Yeah.
these other artists instead?
Yes.
Because, right, I think that is way more effective and transformative than like, let's show them. Because if they're not
Exactly.
changing,
Yeah.
like, don't even waste your energy. Like, your energy should go in like, you to you and to educating people. Like, if someone is infuriating me and I'm like, you're posting and I've had conversations with you and you're still not getting it, like, you're not getting why this is harmful, I can't support you anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah.
We're not going to be friends anymore. And I'm also going to educate other people as to why I did that
Yeah.
and why they should probably do it too. Because maybe one day it'll click that, oh man, nobody's buying my books or nobody's supporting me anymore. Maybe it's because of what I'm sharing. Maybe it's because of the fact that, like, what I'm saying, even if I don't understand why, is harmful to other people. Because I think that that's why people get so angry, is because no matter how many times they explain it to these people, sometimes they don't, there's no change behavior. And
Exactly.
they're not understanding, because they don't have an open mind. They're not understanding why people are offended and why people are hurt,
Yeah.
and that's why they're like, man, fuck you. Because
Yeah.
no matter how many times I tell you that this is freaking offensive, you're not getting it. So I think that it's a frustrating thing, and I get it. It's hard for us to move past and grow
Yeah.
from everything, but in order to do so, I think we have to all be empathetic and know when enough is enough and when it's not worth your energy. And
Well, it all comes back down to the self, right? You have to know yourself, and you have to
yeah.
know what your limit is in evoking change in someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, you can only do so much. That
Yeah,
person has to decide for themselves if they want to or not. We
exactly.
can't impose change on people, but we can only inspire it within them.
Mm-hmm.
And just what you said goes back to that other saying. You know me, I gotta bust out the quotes.
Yes.
I think it's a Buddhist quote, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
holding hot coal or poison, or however many times it's been said and translated, with the intent to
Mm-hmm.
throw it at someone else, we end up burning ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
And,
Yes.
that's what happens is we hold so much of this like emotion within ourselves because we want this person to change, but at the same time, that person's continuing living their life, and here we are sitting with that hate and anger because they're
Yeah,
not changing. And we
exactly.
have to learn for ourselves, like, this isn't healthy for me to be
Yeah,
holding into this hate and anger. Let me take what this advice is and take it to the people that are willing to want to grow and change and transform
absolutely.
and create that empathy within themselves for
Yes.
others.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it really does come down to that, because it doesn't serve us. Like even me, when I'm like, what in the world? Like, how do you really not get it? You know,
I'm
because
like
they're,
that right now with this computer. Oh, there, you're not.
oh no. Okay, good. Sometimes people don't get it, and you're like, uh, what? Even, I mean, I have family members that
Yeah,
I'm like, what? How do you not understand that this is extremely harmful? Like, how do you support this person? You know, like I have that, and I deal with that, and I do get angry and frustrated. But either I can have a conversation with them, or I continue educating people and continue doing my thing, and sharing as much love as I can,
yeah,
with hopes that it will, that the people that want to listen and want to change will,
yeah,
and that will cause a chain reaction in the world, you know, because if I go on every single page and point out everything that's horrible, and then say a whole bunch of mean things, like I'm not going to feel good about that
well, not just
energetically.
that, what's going to happen with the rest of your day? Like, think about how
Exactly.
much time it's going to take to go to every single page
Oh my
that
god.
you think is doing something wrong.
Impossible.
There's billions of people on this planet.
Yes. And no one is flawless, you know, like
No.
everybody everyone is growing, right? We might be in different paces and in different, you know, like we're all, I'm still learning and growing, and there are things that I realize, like, oh my goodness, what, saying that was harmful, and I didn't even
Yeah.
understand why, and now I do, right? Like, you know, we're growing and learning, and I think that we do have to allow people the space to do that too, because
Yeah.
there are people that have done horrendous things, that have learned and that have changed and that have grown, and I can't take that from them.
No.
And that's hard, right? It's a hard pill to swallow when you see people doing harm to others and then standing by. And I don't think anybody should stand by and say like, oh, let me just pause and be peaceful about it. Like sometimes you do have to be assertive, and you do have to be like, hey, this is not okay, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
need to stop this, and educate other people and say, look, don't support this person, or like this is violent, or this is harmful, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We have to be assertive, and we have to be very serious about the change that we want to see, because that's
Yeah.
the only way that it's going to happen, right?
Yep.
But at
Yep.
the same time, we when we go to somebody's page and we say, I hope you die, that's not benefiting what you
No.
want. That's not the change. That's not how it's going to happen, right?
No. No.
At least I don't think so.
I agree. I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree with you. And the thing we have to remind ourselves is also like you just said, everyone's on a different part of their own journey. And like we have to humble ourselves and remind ourselves that we also were at a certain point when we didn't know better.
Yeah.
And that's where the empathy comes in, right? That's where the empathy and compassion come in for this person that, okay, they don't know any better right now. Let me educate them a little bit and allow them, or at least give them the benefit of the doubt to grow and
Yeah,
expand their perspective on something. Now,
exactly.
I have a question for you. How do you think, what do you think has a greater impact, trying to do it through one person at a time with your own like way of doing it, or on a grander scale, like going to the highest echelon of like trying to attack this person or educate this person? Uh,
So, what do you mean?
so for
Elaborate.
example, say what can you do as an individual, as a citizen of the
Okay.
world, to make a difference, to create change? Would you rather allow it to happen in everyday encounters, or would you rather just go to like your highest politician or your highest celebrity and try to get them to be the ones that make this change happen?
Well, I think it's everything, right? Like I think that obviously it's not the celebrities only. But they do have a huge influence, right? Like if they didn't, then cancel culture wouldn't exist, right? Like they have an influence. For example, like J.K. Rowling, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, or familiar with what's going on with J.K. Rowling, but you know, she has a huge fan base, right?
Mhm.
This is the writer of the Harry Potter books. So
Yeah.
you're talking about a person that has people that absolutely love her books and
Mhm.
love the movies that came from the books. So a person like that has huge impact. So what she believes in even if people have their own minds and say like, no, I don't necessarily agree, she's still influencing, whether you like it or not. People do have influence, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the reality right now. People are influenced, and sometimes influenced too easily by the people that they put on a pedestal. And that's just the culture that we live in right now. I hope that that's not how it is forever. I don't believe that we should put anybody on a pedestal, because they are human beings that have a lot of growing to do, regardless of how much money they have, regardless of what they've done for the world up to this point, right? Like, I have learned a lot, but I still have a lot of growing. You have learned a lot, but you still have a lot of growing. Like, you're not at the pinnacle, and I'm not, and no one ever is, right?
Yeah.
So for even us to put ourselves on this pedestal is like not,
Yeah.
there's no room for growth there. So I think that it's with everything. I think that we have to have conversations within our circles, within who we cross paths with on a daily basis. But at the same time, like, we do have to hold the people that have this great influence accountable. If I have a platform, right, which I have a big platform, big enough, right, to make an influence, to make an impact, and someone says what you just impacted people to do is harmful, I have to hold myself accountable. I have to be held accountable, and I have to hold myself accountable so that I can do better, because I'm influencing people, whether I like it or not. Right? People are looking up to me. I look up to people. So even if I have my own mind and I'm super aware and not, super influenced by everything, we get influenced every day because we get inspired by other people, or we listen to other people. Even when we watch a conspiracy theory, that's influence, right? Everything is influence in some way, right? So it's really important, I think, to take advantage of every opportunity. If you have high positions where you can say, look, I stand for this, right? And have millions of followers, then we have to hold them accountable, because people are watching and they're listening and they're being influenced by what they're sharing, what they're posting. But at the same time, you have influence, even if you don't have a social media platform, because you're around people, just like I'm around people. So you don't even need to have a platform to say, hey, mom, this is harmful to this community because XYZ. Here's a book, right? Or, hey, cousin, like, who you're standing for is actually going against what you are claiming you believe in. This is why, right? Here's a video to kind of explain it. There's so many ways of having conversations like that. And I don't think it requires you to talk to a politician, but if you have that access or you can do that, then do it, right? But if you are not, then we make just as much. We are humanity, right? So we're the ones, I think, that make the impact, and all of it matters, in my opinion.
Good answer.
What do you think?
I don't know where I stand on that, in all honesty. Like, I think the greatest impact is in our day-to-day. If you're talking about the individual, if I'm talking about me as an individual, my greatest impact is every encounter that I have.
For sure.
Right. And I don't know, I think it's more so because, like you said, like I'm no longer at that point where I'm putting people on pedestals. So I'm expecting kind of the same, which is kind of wrong of me to expect the same behavior from everyone, because everyone's from a different perspective anyway. So, but I guess I look at it as be the change you wish to see, right?
For sure.
So for me, it's work on yourself. How can you be different? And in you choosing to be different, you allow that ripple effect to happen to where you can now pass that knowledge forward and educate someone else. And it becomes like an exponential growth in a sense. Like if I tell one person and that one person tells two people and two people tell four people,
definitely.
And it spreads in that manner versus me trying to get a hold of like the president,
for sure.
The president, they've got already so many different things like coming at them that it's like, is my one little letter going to make any impact, or am I going to have greater impact in like the 5 people I talked to today?
Well, I think that's exactly why cancel culture exists though, right? Like, I think that it's not when you say, hey, everybody, this politician is a piece of shit, everybody rallies up, right? And that's why obviously it's become something very toxic, but it's the whole point of it is saying, this is not just my voice. This is all of our voices and we're having enough. Like enough is
Yeah.
enough. We're not
Yeah.
okay with what you're doing, right? And I
Yeah.
think that that is why absolutely, like if you talk to every, you are the change, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't expect change if you yourself are not changing, and
Yeah.
you do become a ripple effect to those around you and to everybody that you cross paths with, even if it's just for a second, right? Like the more love that you share, the more knowledge that you share. But I definitely do think that when you're like, you have a voice and you have a message, the reason people are like, hey, let's cancel this person is because they're tired of being the only one talking to
Yeah.
one person, right? We need to be the majority, which is us, need to
Yeah.
speak up on the things that the people on the top, I think, are not doing.
How many of the people just fall into it without actually changing their own behavior? That's the thing that I think with cancel culture is the thing
Yeah.
that, especially this year, that I think has kind of made me question the impact of cancel culture in
Mm-hmm.
the bigger scheme of things, because yes, you've got the voices,
Mm-hmm.
and yes, they want this change to happen,
Yeah,
but they're only putting their voice in for that
exactly.
experience, and in their day to day they're still treating people like shit themselves, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like, or and that's where I get I guess jaded by it, in
Yeah.
the sense, because I'm like, okay, I see you posting things because you want change, but what are you doing yourself to change? Because in your day-to-day actions I don't see that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I mean,
Like,
I don't know everybody, right? Like maybe
no,
they
exactly.
are.
No,
I feel like,
yeah.
yeah, like I guess maybe you're talking about a specific scenario, but I mean, for the most part, from what I've seen, like the people that are getting upset, they're getting upset because of the fact that the things that these people are doing are actually harmful. You know, like for example, there's this awesome girl that I know that she's a model and she's also a business owner, so she makes her own designs, right? And this company, which is known for stealing the designs of Black people, Black women,
Oh,
did it to her. And
yeah,
she went on social media and she was like, you see what I mean? Like, this is why I
yeah,
need you guys to do more, right? And I do need you guys to stop supporting this company because
yeah,
they're stealing from me. You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? And I'm not
yeah,
making the income that they're making. Like, this is the money that I put into my company is my money. And they're
yeah,
here stealing my designs, right? And this is not okay. So I feel like in situations like that, it's not just people spewing hate. Like people are fed up because
yeah,
of what is happening for so many different topics, so many
yeah,
different reasons. People are done, they're overwhelmed, they're exhausted with these things happening and it happening in silence. So people are
yeah,
going, they're rallying up, right? To most of them, right? And I'm not talking about the people that are like trolls that go online and say like, I hate you, or like what are, you know, like mean people that are just mean because they want to spew hate, right? Because that
yeah,
exists. But
yeah,
what I was referring to was more so people that are like actually being affected and they're like, hey, rally up. Let's
yeah,
use our platforms together and make it very clear that this company cannot be supported unless they
not a,
change.
yes,
Stop giving them money, stop supporting them because it's hurting
yeah,
me, right? Like that's that I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to encourage other people to use their voices because people are getting impacted by, you know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily that people are like, oh, I'm just doing this because other people are doing it. It's really like, hello, my sister, even if I don't know her, right? My soul sister is being affected by this company and I'm not supporting them. And neither
yeah,
should you. You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? So maybe in some situations they're just following to follow just to spew hate, but I think in a lot of situations that I've seen is just people getting fed up and saying like,
yeah,
unfortunately not knowing what to do with that anger. And sometimes it leads to them then going to pages and saying like, fuck you guys, fuck this company, when it's like, no, don't do that. Just unfollow them. Just
just
like stop,
unfollow and stop giving them money.
block them, stop giving them money and encourage
Yeah,
other people to do the same, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a
I
lot.
guess for me, I think it was more personal behavior, in the sense of like obviously this year racism has been a big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people out there, especially people of color. You know, we're people of color. We're people of
Mm-hmm.
different backgrounds. And,
Yeah.
And you and I have had this conversation, remember, in San Diego, where we're like, we have to consciously stop saying like
For
Asian
sure.
driver, or, you know, like
Yeah.
that's a racist thought starts here.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
so I guess for me, it's like seeing a bunch of like all this like anti-racism. Like, I get it. I want people to be educated. I want to learn what anti-racism is, like things like
Yeah.
that. But it's one thing to constantly be posting that stuff, but it's another to actually be implementing that action into your daily life.
Absolutely.
And so I think
100%.
that's the thing that I think I was more referring to when I
Yeah.
that up, is that like, how are you changing that behavior? Are you still
Yeah.
saying, you know, Asian driver? Are you still
Exactly.
locking your doors when you feel like you're in a weird neighborhood? Or a black person walks by? Are you still
Exactly.
how are you treating, even in my own culture, right? Like saying a certain word because someone's darker skin than I am in my own Indian culture, like
Exactly.
the colorism, that's colorism, right?
Color.
So
Same with Latinos. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, are you still saying these words even within your own culture? Because that's technically racist against your own culture.
It is, absolutely.
Right? So I was looking at it more in that sense. Like, yes,
sure.
everyone wants to be the first one on board to educate others about changing that behavior, but how are you changing it within yourself? You know?
Absolutely.
So
I love that. I love that you said that. That's really important. And I feel like, unfortunately, it should be a given, right? But unfortunately, for some people, it's not, right? Like, and I think it really does. It all comes back to like really holding ourselves accountable and others accountable, right? But making sure that we're sitting with ourselves and saying like, okay, well, how can I be better? Because we always can be, right? Like,
yes,
even when I think I'm like the best of the best, I'm not. I can be better. I right now can be better. So
Same.
I do agree with you so much. I feel like it's really important for people to mainly focus on themselves, and those that are getting upset because they've done that work and because it's their community, right? Because what I do see a lot of is not so much like the people. I do see a lot of people that are not part of these communities that are getting like, ah, you guys are horrible, right?
Yeah.
And not doing the work and doing the work, right? But I
Yes.
do see people also from the exact communities that are getting like absolutely fed up. And I think that sometimes then they maybe get blamed for spewing hate and they're not the ones doing it. Like a lot of times it's other people that are like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to just be aggressive and be angry, right? And there's that doesn't help. Like it's really, really crucial that you do your own work, like you said, that you do the growth, like you change behavior, because we all have behavior to change.
Yes.
And it's endless. It's not like I've changed all my behavior and now I'm perfect. Like, no, we are constantly going to have to be doing this work forever. And for the next generations to come. Like, this is not something that you have or don't have, or you do and don't know. Like, you are constantly having to work on these things. So
you have to once it's like the seed is planted,
yes,
you have to nurture it, to grow it and cultivate it to become that that empathy that we're talking about, that compassion.
Yes.
And that power that you are to help the cause.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's endless. That's infinite. That's like, so I'm not superior to anybody. Like, it's not like I'm better than anybody.
Yeah.
I will educate somebody that's not educated based on the education I do have. Right.
Yeah.
Just like someone else is probably going to have to educate me, or based on like me having to sit with myself and do more research, right? Like, I have to learn, and I have to continue doing that in order to actively be the change, right? Because we are the issue, right? Like, I think when people stop pointing fingers, then we can actually say like, we are yes. Exactly.
I agree. Not pointing the finger.
Oh my god, that was so awesome. That was like so natural too. It was so natural. Like, I love it. Oh my god. But yeah, I definitely, like, when we point the finger, even the times that I have gotten upset, I can still exercise empathy to understand why people think the way that they do, right? Like, God, what you're saying is so ignorant, right? Yeah. But I'm like, because you don't know, or maybe because I can understand where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
Even with my family, like this was the whole point. The whole
Yeah.
point of divide was so that we could all be confused, so that we can all be like, you know, sharing hate. Like that's just what it was for. So
Yeah.
this is gonna take so much work, and it is a lot. And I get the,
Yeah.
yeah, I get the anger, I get the frustration, I get the feeling fed up, I get it. So I think that it's important for us to use that fuel as change, right? And I think the best way, me, my opinion, is that changing yourself, but also if it's your own community getting impacted and you're like, I don't need to change, bitch, you need to change, right? Because that's the truth. Sometimes it is that the community doesn't need to change, but the people that are oppressing the community needs to change, right? And it's okay to be angry and to say like, you guys need to do the work, okay? And this is the work that you need to do. And holding people accountable, I think, is very important. And saying I don't support these companies is very important. But you can do that with love and
Yeah.
still be assertive and still be like
I
no, I'm fed up.
I keep thinking and hearing like Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to hold that space when you're educating others on changing their behavior, right? Like you said, it's oh my God, you just said it in regards to like you have that understanding that
Mm-hmm.
they don't know this stuff, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And just like a teacher isn't going to just like smack the student if they're not understanding the problem, right?
You would hope so. I hope not.
Yeah, the teacher has to have that patience and compassion or kindness to understand that this child is going to get it at their own pace. And
Yeah,
that's where I think that verse comes from in the Bible, because it can be
for
applied
sure.
to anything and everything.
Yeah.
But when it comes to humanity and the different levels everyone's on of
Mm-hmm.
where they're at, like you have to harness, if you're going to be a believer of these teachings, you have to harness those and hold that for this person if you're educating them.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, of course, I can understand why people don't want to do that, because we have the same reoccurring issues for millennia. You know, like this is not new. These aren't new issues that we're dealing with. These are like, people are really fed up to the brim. There's
Yeah.
like, they've been patient, you know? So I
Yeah.
think that that's why people are getting so upset. And I understand why people are like, fuck this. Like, I don't have to support you. And I think
Yeah.
then that's what you should do. You know, like just don't support them. And instead of, even I saw this thing, this is where I'm like, this cancel culture gets so dangerous. And then we can kind of wrap it up. But I saw this, um what is her name? Why am I blanking? Naya Rivera, right? So she passed away,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And um
You keep freezing.
oh no. Am I frozen now?
You are on my end, but maybe that's just what it is. Am I frozen
That's
on
so
your end?
no, nothing's
Okay.
frozen for me. We'll see. I mean, I'm gonna watch the video to see how it looks, but yeah, Naya Rivera passed away, and then there were, and by they I mean the media, right? Like TMZ and all of these people were sharing pictures of her baby daddy, essentially, right, with her sister, and that they had like moved in together to raise the child.
Mhm.
And so, like, whether you agree with it or not, right, whether people were like, what the fuck or not, is like, to me, was totally irrelevant, because the things that I was seeing people like share to both of them was like horrendous. Like, you guys are sick, you guys should be the ones that are dead. Like, just really, like, totally lacking empathy in every sense of the freaking word, because like, forget that they just lost somebody. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, forget that they're grieving. Let's just like hate on them, and let's just like attack them. And I think that in these situations, I'm like, this is a perfect example of when you should exercise empathy, and whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter, because they
And you don't
lost
know the whole
somebody.
story.
You don't know
You don't
anything.
know the whole story at all. Like
No.
in a tribal sense, like
Yeah.
that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
In past ancient cultures, if you lose someone and you've got a
Absolutely.
child, you
Yeah.
want the family around to help raise this child. So whatever context in which it happened,
For sure.
whatever, we don't know that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know the context. It's people making assumptions based on the conditioning we have.
Yeah,
Assuming they were doing something behind the back or whatever,
exactly.
and just jumping to that conclusion. And
Exactly. And let's just say, right, like, even because I always like putting myself in the perspective of, like, let's just say the worst case scenario that you believe is happening. Like, let's just say that that is what happened. It still
yeah,
doesn't give anybody the right to then go to their pages,
yeah,
and these people, they don't know.
yeah,
They don't know, that doesn't pay for them, but that like literally they don't know, right?
yeah,
And just attack them in ways that are absolutely disgusting. Like I was like, there was even this YouTuber that was talking about it that I had seen pop up, and I was like, why are you even talking about this?
yeah,
Like, this family, no celebrity family should be of your concern, because you don't know them and they do nothing for your life. But
yeah,
other than that, like, why are you even talking about people and how they should live their lives when they just lost somebody? Like, you
yeah.
don't do that. You don't do that for any, not even if it was your, I don't know. I was just like, this
Well,
is so gross.
what I don't get either is like how does that make you feel better?
Exactly.
Like I can't
Exactly.
even imagine going to someone else's page and like talking shit to them because
No.
that doesn't make me feel good. Like just the thought
Mm-mm.
of it doesn't make me feel good.
It's horrible.
Like, so
No.
I don't understand how people actively actually do this. It's like, how are you even happy inside if you're wishing this ill on someone you don't even know?
Exactly.
And even then, you
Exactly.
shouldn't be wishing ill will on
Even
anyone.
then, even
You
then, like,
know?
there are people that I do know that are like doing things that I'm like, what are you doing? But
Yeah.
I don't message them in hateful ways, right? Like,
No.
there's a way, I don't know. I just,
It,
that is when I'm like, what are you like? These are a lot of times, unfortunately, it is people that are just wanting to be angry at
yeah.
somebody, and
Yeah.
so they just go and they share anger and
And
hate.
that's, I end up having empathy and compassion for that person because I'm like,
Yeah,
you've been through that, you're projecting this stuff
absolutely.
to others, like,
Absolutely.
and when you get to a certain level of empathy and compassion, you can't turn it off.
No, no.
It's just like,
Ab-
I want to know what happened in your life.
yeah,
That's
because
I
it
want
most
to
of the
know that.
time, yeah, most of the time it is that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, are you wearing a Culture of Love t-shirt?
Yeah.
I'm like, we didn't plan this, but I see the top of the box.
Yes, I am. I was gonna give it a cameo in the end, but you brought it up.
Yeah, I was like, is she wearing that? I'm like, oh, funny, we're talking cancel culture, and we're both wearing our.
Culture of love. And I totally, it's insane that I didn't plan it either. I was wearing a sports bra, and then I was like, oh, I have to put a shirt on. And I opened the closet, and I was like, perfect. I put it on. And there you go.
There we go.
Love it.
I want you to unfreeze on my end. What if,
Oh,
since I don't think you froze as much on your end, is there a way for you to end the broadcast?
yes. Yeah.
Your phone?
I'm gonna be the one to press end.
Yeah, I'll let you
Because I
do that.
think it'll look
If it
better.
changes it. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. We love
Yay.
you.
Please,
For tuning in.
please share more love. If you get frustrated or angry or overwhelmed, it's okay. Feel it, but be more loving. Try and use love and exercise empathy and compassion as much as you can. I have
Yes.
to do it more. Ronnie has to do
Yes.
it more. And so we really encourage you all to do the same.
We encourage you to do the same. Take a moment, feel the feels, but
Yes.
take a moment to compose yourself and have a conversation versus an argument.
Absolutely. Love you.
Love you.
Bye. Okay.